place privately in executive session. It is requested that individual comments be limited to 3 minutes or a total of 15 minutes for a particular topic. The intent of public comment is to give the Board of Education the opportunity to hear your comments. However, the board will make no decision nor take any action on public comment during the meeting. Thank you. Ms. Kelly, first up on our list.
Well, we have 13 people that signed up, and since we extended it, that gives us 39 minutes. So my question to you, Mr. President, is do you want me to just go in the order they signed up, or do you want to do it randomly and draw numbers? They'll all get to speak, but however you want to do it.
You get to choose.
I get to choose. Oh, let's roll the dice. Make it interesting. All right. Number 7, Osa Graves. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. You'll have 3 minutes, and I'll give you a 1-minute warning.
So, can I start? Or?
Yep.
Okay. Good evening, my name is Osa Graves, and I am a mother of 6 children and have the opportunity to live here in Woodland Park right now. I just wanted to give a little positive speech here because I am thrilled to see what you have here in America, and as you have a school board as well. So when I became an American citizen 2002, I had to go through and learn a little bit about your history. And of course, 1776 comes out of freedom. Well, there's much more coming after that. We know the slaves weren't free at this time. But America's history is so rich, and people, families, parents have always stood up and wanting to see our generation and generations to come to have a good, full life where they can have an education. This being said, little did I know that America was the 4th country in the world that actually took away slavery. There's so much good in America's history, and there's so much good in education. So this brings me to...
Excuse me.
Yeah?
Mrs. Gray, can you direct the board your comments?
Okay. Okay, so this brings me today. Wonderful. I am thrilled that America have schools with choices and opportunities. So, for example, where I grew up in Sweden, there are no choices. It's a neutral country maybe, but we had no choices. So after I moved and come to America and then worked internationally, I have had our 6 children in America's public schools, Sweden public school. We have homeschool. We have been in private schools where some of my children got grants. And then I have had children that are having medical situations.
1 minute.
Where we had to have special needs schools. You know, in America we have this. And to have the opportunity to come and speak and give voices to us parents is so wonderful. So I just want to give you an encouragement to try to find what is it that we want to achieve with schools here in Woodland Park academically. Like, how can we lift up our children that are, of course, students, to get the best education, to be safe, to succeed as the young people they are, and give them tools to grow up and become great Americans with choices and freedom and be strong. That's what I want to see in our schools. I hear that there are some politics coming in, and I don't call life politic. But thank you. I call this a great American. I am thankful that you have school boards because we do not have that in many other countries.
Amen, amen, amen.
All right, the next speaker is Lorraine Merle.
All folks, and then there's me. Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. Again, I don't have anything prepared, but I do have some thoughts. Trying to speak up for the positive, I was hoping, Mr. Witt, when you were talking about the middle school, thank you for bringing that to everyone's attention, but the middle school choir, did anyone have the opportunity to listen to them at the 9/11 memorial here in town?
I was in attendance at the high school.
No. Anyway, at the park. Anyway, I thought we were going to talk about that. So they were just wonderful, the choir. Fast forward here, let's see, or actually backwards. A March meeting, Mr. Ruster Holtz, you came out of that March meeting. It was the executive meeting. And you came out and you said you had a great meeting. And in 2 to 3 months, you're going to be able to talk about it. Security was on that agenda. Fast forward, nothing was ever mentioned. Last meeting here, it was 5:50 p.m. I went up to you, Mr. Rusterholz, to talk to you about that, to say, I haven't heard anything. It's been a lot of months since. And I said, is the community going to be able to have any input on what direction you're going with security, or are you guys just going to go in that back room, make a decision, and come out and tell us? And you assured me you guys don't make any decisions. And I said, that's great, but my question to you, is the community going to have any input on that decision? Or what direction you guys are heading for security? Am I going to have any say in it? And you just wanted to shake my hand and assure me that no decisions are being made. And I said, again, I would like to know, is the community going to have any input? That was the end of it. You guys started your meeting. And then on the 17th, I read a letter that came out from Mr. Salt that the decision was made of security. I want to know who made that decision. Was it Mr. Salt? Where was that decision made? Because I definitely didn't have any input on that. And I don't know if anybody else here did. Now, I'm not disputing whether we have guns in the schools or not. That's not a decision of mine. But who made that decision? Was it Mr. Salt? I think in that letter it said we. So who's we?
I'm just going to say that security is a very sensitive issue and that we all want our kids to have this and employees to have the safest environment that they possibly can have.
And
So at this point,
I appreciate that, but
And
again,
that's time.
you looked me straight in the eye and would not answer me. You said, we cannot tell you where the security cameras are. I am not okay with you guys not being transparent. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is Matt Galowski.
Members of the board, my name is Matt Galowski. I'm a parent and a former Columbine SAC member. 2 out of 5 you're actually looking at me right now, so that's cool. So you've been in power almost 2 years. In this time, you've insulted and alienated parents, students, and teachers. Parents have frequently been subjected to belittling, demeaning emails from board members in response to them expressing valid concerns. You call us names and dismiss us. You've driven out a large number of highly experienced, much-loved teachers and still haven't managed to fill all those empty slots with replacements, let alone ones of the caliber that we've lost. One of our schools lost 2/3 of their teachers after this last year. You've refused to celebrate the successes of our schools. Gateway Elementary didn't even know that they had won the Governor's Distinguished Improvement Award until after the end of the school year, when we leaked it on the Concerned Parents of Teller County Facebook group. That's how the Gateway teachers found out after they had already gone home for the summer. You celebrate raises for teachers. A 5% raise when the per pupil funding is increasing 11%. It's not generous. That's insulting. Student enrollment has declined every year you've been in power. You attempt to mislead us by saying that adding merit boosted district enrollment, but merit was already in existence before you came along. They just counted as a year of BOCES in the eyes of the CBE. But in my eyes, those merit kids have always been every bit as much a part of this district as the kids in the other schools. And we've seen enrollment decline under your watch. You wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars on things like legal fees and separation agreements to get rid of those you don't like. In August, you voted for a cleverly worded modification to the facility usage agreement that gives the entire middle school building to
1
Merritt
minute.
Academy without telling us what your plan is for the 7th and 8th graders there now. Where are they going? What's that going to cost? Who's paying for it? You tried to influence our local police department to take action against 3 different parents of this district. One of those parents is me. Instead of working with parents who have different beliefs, you choose instead to attempt to silence and intimidate those parents. This is just wrong. And it's one of many reasons why so many of us will be voting against you this fall. When I look at your actions, the logical conclusion is that you wish to destroy the community's confidence in our traditional public school system so people will flee to charter and private schools. It's the same game plan that we see playing out nationwide. But public schools are not only about educating children, they're about building community, and your actions have seriously damaged this community. You've been in power almost 2 years, but your time of control of this board is coming to an end. This fall, the people of this community will finally have the opportunity to reject you and vote to rebuild our public schools and repair our community. Thank you.
Next up, Keegan Barkley.
Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak tonight. Tonight, I just wanted to address some of the inaccuracies stated during the last board meeting regarding the intergovernmental agreement and the sales tax. As someone who was here at last month's board meeting, as well as at the city council meeting referenced, I felt it was appropriate for me to address this issue. First, it was incorrectly stated that there is a it was correctly stated that there is a minimum number of mills that the school district must get from property tax. There is a per pupil funding amount that is decided by the state each year. If the mills fall short, the state fills the gaps. That is all correct. But this is a separate thing from the mill levy override. The mill levy override is an additional tax separate from the normal property tax that must be voted on. So they're 2 different things. Removing or withholding the sales tax would not automatically increase the mill levy override. Property tax would require a vote to increase. It was also incorrectly implied why the city council was re-examining the agreement. Many of the city council members were concerned that the tax money was not being spent responsibly. And I encourage anyone to go watch the July 6th meeting and see for yourself. The discussion on this started about the 1:16 mark. I would also like to call out that the previous school board was only using the sales tax on things that the sales tax ballot issue expressly stated. Unlike how it was described, doing so does not prevent money from being spent on books or other resources. Because the school district has funding coming from other places, using the sales tax for money for facilities maintenance, for example, as described in the voter-approved resolution,
1 minute.
frees up other monies to be used in that way. City council is responsible to the voters to ensure that the money is used correctly and not being spent frivolously. Historically, there was a good relationship between city council and the school board. The school board would provide reports to the council as a check to assure that the schools were utilizing the tax money in a responsible way. Merritt Academy has provided their spending reports, but it is my understanding that this board has not been forthcoming. As a result, the city council has decided to re-examine the intergovernmental agreement and even mention sunsetting the tax. This would cost the school district millions of dollars in funding. We need a board to be transparent with the city council and the taxpayers of Woodland Park and learn to work together in good faith. you are endangering our school district of losing a
Time.
projected $3 million in revenue that would take another passing vote to get back. This loss would represent close to 10% of the total school budget and would not be covered by the state. It would simply mean fewer resources for the students.
Next up, Kersheed Rogers.
Thank you. I'm speaking tonight about what I feel was false or misleading information published by this board on a board director's webpage entitled Myths versus Facts. My assumption is that these statements were made as one voice by this entire board, so I address my deep concerns to all of you. This board published that the number of students that have transferred out of WPSD since this board was elected is the lowest it has been in 8 years. You provided no source for this data. The CDE website shows 473 students choiced out of our district last school year and 441 choiced out in the prior year when you were elected. These are not the lowest numbers of students choicing out by any stretch, not even in the last 4 years, let alone 8. So please either clarify, correct, or remove these claims. This board published declining enrollment numbers for the past 10 years, suggesting it was all about district performance and with no mention of demographics, birth rates, housing costs, etc. This picture was so incomplete and, in my opinion, irresponsibly misleading. This board published that it is a myth that they were responsible for a mass exodus of staff. The CDE staff turnover data that you linked does not extend beyond 2021 school year, but we're feeling the loss this year. My understanding is that Gateway lost around 71% of their teachers and the high school lost between 35 and 40% of their staff. To say that we're fully staffed now is completely false. Special education, high school science, art, middle school social studies, to name a few. This board is not delivering on its promise to retain and attract new staff. This board published that they decreased gender identity programming. This is completely false. We have never had any gender identity programming in this district. This board published that our district historically scores 32% proficiency in math and 55% proficiency in language arts. These are conglomerate CMAS scores for grades 3 to 8. This data deserves way more analysis than you provided. Like, what is considered proficient? How do we compare to the state? What about other assessments? For example, our 2022 conglomerate CMAS score for language arts shows 45% proficiency, but our conglomerate score according to PSAT and SAT assessments indicates 75% proficiency. So can you see that inconsistency? Data like this should be presented thoroughly and not used for shock value. This board published that they have fought for parental rights. And though I choose to speak at these meetings, I have never felt so unheard, so ineffectual, so shut out, and so disempowered as I have since this board took office.
The next speaker is Bridget Curran.
Mr. President, if I may real quick, just to clarify the record, if I'm familiar with what Ms. Rogers was referring to, she kept saying this board published. There's nothing that this board has published in anything that she's referencing, so that's totally inaccurate.
Excuse me, but you say that others can't publish.
Regular order,
Because
regular order,
we brought it have to speak as one
regular
voice.
order.
Kersheed, you got it.
Do everyone here? Yeah.
My name is Bridget Curran, and while most of you have called me a wild-eyed radical, a rude bully, a disingenuous liberal, even criminal, what you fail to see is that I was the 5-year-old military brat roaming the halls of Columbine Elementary. I graced the hallways of middle school, and even here in the high school before Dixon Auditorium was a thing because I was in his choir class. My mother was also in these schools before these buildings. My grandmother before her. And now my kids are here. You'd be able to see the beginnings of my family's legacy if you hadn't removed the alumni photos and put up an unofficial flag that was paid for by our tax dollars to be framed for something that's on loan. I would like to see that frame remain here after Kenwood is gone.
That's right.
Those names that I was called by you as if I was beneath you, it's quite disgusting. I'm here because apparently it needs outlined how you don't care to hear from parents. You will berate, belittle, and dismiss anyone who doesn't think like you do. And for the very few of you who haven't badmouthed me via email or social media, you have no spine to allow that to happen. There are policies in place that direct how each one of you are to interact with the public, parents, student, and staff. And you fail to follow those policies, or you'll just change them to suit your needs. You are not a representation of this community. You represent national politics, and I can't wait to vote you out come November.
Next speaker is Cynthia Bear.
Hello everyone, good evening. My name is Cynthia Bear. My son started in the school district and let's see, it was the year that the Sandy Hook happened. Can you help me remember what year that was? 2012. Thank you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Better, thank you. So he started here in 2012 to 2013. And he was at Gateway Elementary. At that time, I worked at the high school. I subbed in the schools initially, and then I attained a full-time position working as a para in the severe significant needs classroom. Over the years, I also worked over at the middle school in the severe significant needs classroom for 2 years. My son, with the exception of 3 years, and then the past 2 years, has attended this school district. I stood with parents outside of Gateway the day that Sandy Hook happened, and we couldn't speak to one another. What is most important to me, and I hope is most important to every person in this room, is that our children are safe. I think that this school board is doing everything possible in their power to ensure that our children are safe. And that's mentally, emotionally, and physically. I know that you care, and I know because I helped vote you in. And I will continue to support you. But what I urge everyone in the room and every parent listening is we need to come together for the sake of our children. We need to stop fighting. We need to stop being antagonistic. We need to stop the verbal threats and physical threats against people's well-being. And I'm not referring to the board. I'm referring to people in our community that I've lived and walked beside since 2012. I came to this community because this school district is a very good school district.
1 minute.
And I want to continue to see this district grow. And I think you guys are the right people and you're doing a fantastic job. But please do whatever you can to create unity in our community. And then I had something that I wanted to share on behalf of my friend here. She wanted me to read this for her due to a limitation. School board forum announcement. The Victory Life Community Impact Team's mission is to educate and activate the Woodland Park community. What better time to reach out to this community than now? We understand the Chamber of Commerce is having a school board forum on October 9th as well. We are also offering the community an opportunity to attend a school board forum on October 2nd at the Woodland Park High School auditorium at 6 p.m. We want to make it clear that we are in no way competing with the Chamber's forum. There are many issues facing this election, and we want the Woodland Park School District voters to have an ample opportunity to be as educated as possible before casting their vote. Thank you so much.
Next speaker is Patricia. At least I got the first name correct this time. How do you pronounce your last name?
Bielaka.
Say that one more time.
Bielaka.
Bielaka. Patricia Leka.
Hello, my name is Patricia Bielaka. And I'll start with my family and friends love this community, and a lot of that is due in part to the wonderful school board. My kids are so happy, and I love how much they love their school. Every day that they come home, there's big smiles on their faces, and they're just really living in a wonderful world in their minds, right? So I was born in a communist country, and my mother grew up in communism. So when I come up to speak, it's because I fear that this country that we escaped to is going to fall. Many people here in this room have no idea how lucky they are and how our freedoms are slipping, and they're letting these freedoms slip, and it shows. So another piece that I think many people don't understand is, I'm not sure if people understand how elections and democracy work, but when I elect or I'm part of an election, you guys make the decisions. I don't need to be part of every single decision and have every word in what you do. I'm entrusting you to do that, right? Same thing with my CEO. My CEO makes the decisions for my company. I have zero input in the decisions that he makes and the people underneath him make, right? So just to clear that up. So I want to voice my support for this incredible school board. This school board has done so much for the students, teachers, and parents of our communities. Let me list it out for you. Here are the things that benefit parents and students. We have seen a 15% increase in enrollment, placing us top 5 in the entire state. Chartered the first school in the district. By the way, this is the most popular school by enrollment growth, that is Merit Academy. Increased services such as bus service to all schools in the district and free healthy meal program. Kindergarten grade level available in all schools, improvement in academic performance, so we are going in a positive direction in the district as a whole. Here are things that benefit teachers. Increased benefits package for teaching, including free liability insurance for teachers, including liability insurance at no cost, and increased life insurance.
1 minute.
Maybe it's not the pay raise you want, but this school board provided the largest pay raise for teachers in the history of the district. The people who hate our school board and are spreading straight up lies, misleading information, not providing any substantial evidence or actual proof, hate our school board because they came up with some wild conspiracy theory that they created against the school board because this school board wants to focus on education and educating young minds to think for themselves, to love their country, and to learn about facts, not feelings. These people want to be trendy, woke mountain town, and be part of a radical left movement that is sweeping across this country. There are a ton of schools and communities that will welcome you and your progressive agendas. Leave our schools and leave our students alone. Boulder will gladly take you. Also, if you want to be a good example, when it's time is up. Thank you.
Next speaker is Nate Owen.
Good evening, Board of Directors. My name is Nate Owen. I am the WPEA president. I am also a 20-plus year registered Republican. I'm a parent in this Panther community and a longtime educator at this high school. Recently, there's been a lot of misconceptions about who the WPEA is and what we believe. And after a lot of feedback and a lot of work done by my WPEA leadership team, I'd like to share a statement that we've really worked hard on to share about a little bit about the why of why we have WPEA. The Woodland Park Education Association is a local education staff with a collective voice that advocates for strengthening students' voice and staff voice in public education to unlock each individual's potential for success. We believe diverse perspectives build meaningful relationships that promote equity amongst all members within our community. Because we believe that all voices matter, I'm here to ask you, what systematic ways are you using to engage with our community? How can we, as a Panther community, ensure that all conservative voices are given space to be heard for the decisions that affect them? I found that under the current process, there's not a choice other than a reactive choice. Right now, it's only reaction. As I've spent the last 18 months working shoulder to shoulder for the betterment of our students and teachers at WPSD in my current role, and many more years before that in the school district, I've grown heartbroken to see the response of so many of the people in Teller County. My hope is that we can stop spewing disdain and prejudice towards so many that have been traumatized and marginalized in this community. I've felt their desperation. I've wept at their stories. I've marveled at their generosity, and I've been blown away by their resilience and resourcefulness. I work alongside these people every day.
1 minute.
Don't get me wrong, there's still work to be done, but we need those in power to have the courage to speak up for the marginalized and those who are trying to help this community. These people are our neighbors, our friends, but I'll tell you, truly I tell you tonight, whatever you do, do for the least of these. I'm going to leave you and our community with a question tonight. I don't expect an answer, but how long will it take for us to learn to listen to every voice for true understanding and not just to respond?
Good evening. Good evening. See, having your back to the audience, really, when the thing was over there, at least people could, see and hear better, but I think I have a loud enough voice. I'm Gwen Collins, a 32-year resident of Woodland Park. I support the inclusion of Merit Academy into RE2 school district so that families have a choice in their children's education. I am a registered Republican and proud Christian, which really should not enter into our public school arena as far as I'm concerned. I voted for this board, who ran on conservative values and transparency. I will not be voting for this November for two very important reasons. I have been astounded by the lack of transparency. Most of your decisions appear to be prepackaged and made among yourselves. You show no real desire to listen to a variety of views, including those of district teachers and administrators. You instituted gag orders and retributions when teachers spoke out. Not only have you reduced input time during board meetings, now this was prior to last month because it got changed. However, I felt that was a little bit of a ploy. The fact that two of you frequently scroll through your phones during public comment is very telling. Your opponents are not against merit or against sixth grade remaining at the elementary schools. They were simply frustrated at a process that says we and our friends know best. We have no intention of listening to concerns ahead of time, much less take them into account. As a result of not listening to all sides before making informed decisions, you've had to make multiple corrections following these decisions, many of which are costing the district money.
1 minute.
Number two, fiscal irresponsibility. Your lack of transparency and the division you have created in our district has resulted in increased legal fees because people have to go to Cora to really know what's happening. Your rapid execution of the $100,000 door installation at the middle school is now completely wide open. That was 1 year we spent $100,000. After buying out our previous superintendent's contract, you chose to hire Ken Witt, who is unqualified but has a second job. After the shameful and flippant public remark made by Ken Witt to a teacher who was asking to keep counselors at Gateway, you chose to eliminate grant money and local counseling positions and then wound up paying money to outside contractors that have no ties to our community. These are just a few examples of why I will not be voting for you in November. My conservative and Christian values encourage diversity, tolerance, and inclusiveness, not arrogance and bullying. Adding new voices to the board will help us heal the divide. Having multiple perspectives inside our board will move us from rubber stamping every decision to one that believes in listening first. Thank you.
Thank you to the board for your honorable and distinguished service. Mr. President, today I rise to shed light on what is known as the Teachers Union Playbook. This is a book of strategies and tactics used by the Teachers Union and their hand-picked candidates, like the union slate running here in the Woodland Park School District. I will address two areas of the playbook. The first area, asserting complete control in the district by eliminating parental rights. In the second area, pushing radical gender ideology upon young children. There are multiple ways the union slate will strip away parental rights and choice. The first tactic will be to manufacture a financial scandal at Merit Academy. You have witnessed the union slate's supporters' attempts at this the last few years, which have thus far yielded little success. But that doesn't mean they won't keep trying. The other tactic is to starve Merit Academy of funds, so that the school will wither on the vine and die. The union slate already has and will continue to conspire with far left-wing city councilor Carol Harvey to take away authority from the school board and have tax money that is intended for education come with strings attached. Those strings are designed to kill Merit Academy, which in turn kills real parental rights and choice. Another page in the playbook the union slate is following addresses the pushing of radical gender ideology on very young children. Step one in the playbook is to bring in the most radical teachers who may start with putting a gay flag in the first grade classroom under the guise of tolerance. Then all of a sudden, there is a transgender flag in the first grade classroom. Then you will start to see books like Gender Queer. Bullshit. Sorry.
1 minute.
Can I have some time back, Mr. President?
No.
Thank you. Next, it will be your first grader sitting on the lap of a drag queen during story hour. The program builds to a climax where little boys are turned into little girls and little girls are turned into little boys, all behind the parents' back, which, in addition to this grave atrocity, will kill parental rights. Mr. President, for those supporting the union slate, they are supporting this agenda, declaring war on our kids. We will not give up until all our kids are safe from this agenda. This agenda will face fierce opposition. That I can promise. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes.
That number doesn't make sense. This one. Oh, it's number 6. Kitten Walker is our next speaker.
Okay, so October 2nd, Woodland Park High School Auditorium, 6 o'clock, the Victory Life Community Impact Team Forum. This is a public invitation to our city council members, our county commissioners, the chamber members, and the school board candidates. The moderator is Senator Mark Baisley. And I just wanted to state that all candidates have been formally invited. Seth Bryant and Keegan Barkley have declined due to a short notice of 30 days. Mike Knott has declined
I'm
due
sorry,
to
aren't they not
another,
supposed to directly address individuals?
Regular order.
due to another obligation.
That's.
So my point is,
She's out of order.
30 days is too short of a notice. What does this look like as a
These are
school
private
board
citizens,
director?
not.
She's out of order.
She's right.
Can you remove her?
When did you schedule it?
Please continue. Ken?
Another thing I want to discuss is the fact that some of the businesses are being threatened. Some have the sitting boards, signs out in front of their businesses, and they have been contacted by someone saying that if they didn't take those signs down, that their businesses would be boycotted. So this is going on in our community. And the public needs to know what is happening in our community as far as the election is concerned. So I'm just going to let the rest stand. What I said is true. And as we know, John 8:32 says, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." So again, October 2nd, 6 o'clock, high school auditorium, come. Hopefully all 6 candidates will be there, and the public will be educated on how they really want to vote. Thank you.
You know, I just want to say, speaking for myself personally, there are a lot of things in this that make me uncomfortable as well. One of them is the campaigning, not announcing events where there's going to be discussions or debate or a forum to find out more for the public. But I have to be careful because I don't want anyone being demeaned here, no matter which side you're on. Because there's a lot of, there's a lot of passion surrounding this. So I would like to ask for decorum, that we do not demean each other by name in these meetings. Now, I can't stop you from doing it. I don't like to do it. I personally don't do it in a public way. And so I would ask, and I'm not saying that Kitten was, I'm just saying there was some offense taken here. There's always going to be offense. I would like to try to avoid that as much as possible. But if we keep from mentioning names, that I can't stop you from doing it. That's just where I'm at on this. Probably as clear as mud, but there you have it.
We have one last speaker, Logan Ruths.
What an evening. I'm going to talk a little bit about my personal story. I was born in Colorado Springs and grew up in Woodland Park. I've been a part of the community, and it's been a part of me my entire life. I went through Woodland Park School District, pre-K through 12. I graduated in 2015. After I graduated, I moved up to Denver to attend college. Unfortunately, less than a year after I moved up there, I was diagnosed with cancer, and several recurrences followed. These obstacles forced me to move back home. I went through 2 years of chemo. I felt I was unable to function and that I would never recover. Then I started as an intern with the district tech team, and they immediately became my family. I went from feeling completely helpless and unable to work to working 70 to 80-hour weeks. The support from the district enabled and fostered my healing. You took that away from me under the guise that my position was being eliminated. I worked 118 hours of overtime in January of this year alone. When my boss was notified about my removal the day before it occurred, he inquired as to what would happen to everything I was responsible for. He was told, "You'll figure it out." He resigned in my termination meeting the next day. A month before I was terminated, I approached board members after their meeting to bring up concerns about the district's direction and staff's worries about their job security.
1 minute.
That conversation quickly turned into an interrogation about my integrity and my ability to perform my job due to my personal connections in the district. I was appalled. And while you denied any planned staffing changes, that was obviously false. But the questioning of my integrity wasn't really about my integrity at all, was it? It was about me raising my voice against the injustices I saw occurring. The hypocrisy of your actions is evident in that I tried to talk to you, and instead you interrogated me and wouldn't listen. I tried. You then fired me. You then banned me from school property. Finally, you removed the ban and told the press that I was a great guy and that you wanted to talk with me, but only after I filed a First Amendment lawsuit. This board and administration, it is a disgrace. November can't come soon enough.
Thank you, everyone, for your participation in public comment. On to Roman numeral 5, discussion and information. We have a presentation on EE1, academic achievement presentation.
Just need a warm up.
Just, uh-oh, it disappeared, Stephen.
What's that? Stay.
No, you need to stand over there, just. Good evening. I'm Kim Moore, the Chief Academic Officer with Woodland Park School District. I'm here tonight to present on our academic achievement, specifically the CMAS scores, and then the SPS that have recently been released. So you have all these slides in your slide deck or in your binder. So we're going to start first with our CMAS historical mean scale scores for English language arts. So we're going to look at the historical mean, which is the average scale score. The scale scores are the cut scores for each level of proficiency and for all subject areas to reach the met expectations is 750 points. So keep that in mind as we're looking at these slides. As we look at the elementary scores, please keep in mind that we are only in this is our third year, 2023-24, is our third year for implementation of our new reading program into reading. So as we look at the third grade reading scores, you can see the district score is slightly higher than the state for third grade reading. Overall, 43.2% of Woodland Park School District third graders met or exceeded grade level expectations. Next slide.
One point, if
Yes,
I may, go back up to the previous slide.
Can you go back the slide, please, Lindsay?
We don't have great trends to talk about everywhere tonight. We've got a mixed bag. But I want to point out that we've had a baseline decline on third grade reading for a significant period of time. And it's great to see that we're back in the right direction. This is one of our most critical academic measures. Reading in third grade determines a lot of the vector for education going forward.
That's true.
Here you see the breakdown of the scores based upon every school. And so you can see the historical data going back from 2015 and forward. Remember, those are scaled scores down on the bottom. Up in the corner in the box is the percentage of students that have met or exceeded. So two different things. The graph shows the scaled score, the box shows the percentage of students that have met or exceeded. If we break down the scores by school, we have two schools that scored above the state average scale score, Merritt and Summit, and the other two schools fell below. However, there was tremendous increase in the scores with Columbine and Gateway from the year 2022 to 2023. Keep in mind, again, that last year was only the second year of using this new reading program into reading. We're hopeful that those scores will continue to increase. We look at fourth grade, the district overall fell short of the state average. You can see that the met or exceeded percentage for the state was 43.8% and the school district as a whole was at 39.5%. And if we thank you, Lindsay. As we break down into all the different schools, remember again, the graph shows the scaled scores. The box shows you the percentage of students that met or exceeded. Summit Elementary had 52.8%, Merritt had 44.4%. The state average was 43.8%. As you can see, there was a spike in increase for Summit from 2022 to 2023. And while the fourth graders at Columbine and Gateway showed a drop from year to year, this cohort of fourth graders actually improved their scale score from when they were third graders. As we look at the fifth grade, our fifth graders scored above the state average with 50.8% score meeting or exceeding the expectation. The state average was 47.8%. And then you have the breakdown of the schools here again. Merritt was at 59.1% of their students met or exceeded. Columbine actually was at 59%. Summit was 55.9%. Woodland Park School District as a whole was at 50.8%. And then Gateway was at 28%. So move on to sixth grade. As a whole, the district scored below the state in the sixth grade reading in both the scaled score and the percentage of students that were meeting or exceeding grade level expectations. We look at the seventh grade overall, the district exceeded the state in both the mean scale score and the percentage of students meeting or exceeding benchmarks. Merritt had a significant increase from 2022 to 2023. The middle school sixth graders actually saw an increase of 4 points from their previous, from their fifth grade scores. So even though that doesn't show on this data on this graph, there was a significant increase in their scores from the time they were fifth graders to the time they were sixth graders. I'm sorry, from the time those seventh graders were sixth graders. We look at the eighth grade reading scores. All schools scored higher in 2023 than the state in the scale score and percentage of students that met expectations. While the graph shows a decrease in the middle school scores, these eighth graders actually maintained their scale score the same as when they were seventh graders in the previous school year. We're going to move on into the math. I'm going to simply for you, there's a lot of data to go over. You good? Okay. Remember, we're going to look at the mean scale score. So that is the average score. And again, the cut point for the scale score for meeting expectations is 750 points. Our third graders have returned, if you look at this graph, our third graders have returned to pre-COVID scores. We did implement a new math program in the 2021-22 school year, and that is helping to fill the gaps, and we've also added an additional intervention program that targets students' individual deficiencies. So as you can see on this graph, the state average was 40.4%, met or exceeded the grade level expectations, and Woodland Park School District scored 32.3. We break it down into the schools. While the percentage of students meeting or exceeding the state standards is less than the state average, you can see by the graph that third graders are improving over time. Fourth grade, we are seeing a gradual increase in scaled scores over time with these fourth graders over what their third grade math scores were. The state scored, 32.7% was the average for meeting or exceeding, and the district for our fourth graders was at 20.3%. If you look at this graph, it does show some increases for many of our schools. The state average was 32.7, Summit was at 31.4, Merritt at 16.7, Columbine at 10.5, and Gateway at 22. Fifth grade math, the district as a whole scored less than the state on the scaled score, and the percentage of students that met or exceeded grade level expectations. There you can see the percentages of fifth graders that met or exceeded, with Summit at 38.2%, the state at 36.5%. Sixth graders. Our sixth graders have brought their math scale scores back up to pre-pandemic levels. We did have some flatlining on the scores, but we're working towards improvement. We look at our seventh grade math scores. The seventh graders, the middle school seventh graders showed great growth in math over their scores as sixth graders with a 12-point scaled score increase. So this graph doesn't show that took some data digging, but there was that middle school score does show a 12-point scaled score increase. Merritt's seventh graders showed an 8-point increase over their scores as sixth graders. And the middle school eighth graders actually made a 6-point increase in their scaled score in 2023 over their score as seventh graders. So you can see the middle school was at 40.4%, met or exceeded. Overall as a district, we're at 38.5. Okay, whoops, we're cut off a little bit at the bottom here, sorry. For science, you can see here for fifth grade science, the state percentage for met or exceeded was 33.9%. The district overall was at 32.5. Columbine, if we break down the schools, 36%, Merritt at 32, Summit at 32 as well, and Gateway at 29. We look at the eighth grade math science, CMAS. Woodland Park Middle School, 41.7% of their students met or exceeded the state expectations. Merritt was at 33.3, both of which are above the state average at 31.3. This is a great achievement for our high school. 11th grade, we had 46.2% that met or exceeded the state expectations for the science standards. The state was only at 24.6. The state also had a much lower percentage of participation rate than the high school did. Before we move on to the SPFs, do you have any questions?
Actually, if I may have a first point of personal privilege, very briefly, you should also have, actually, you probably, your packet had summary information.
That's what we're moving on to here next.
No worries. I just want to point out, as Kim is about to go through some more detail on some of these scores, we care a whole lot in this district about growth and making certain that students are closing the gap where they're behind, but we care equally, and I would say more, about achievement, ensuring that our students are in fact at grade level, achieving where they're supposed to be. It is awesome to say you are less behind this year than you were last year, but we prefer to be able to say you are at grade level. To that end, each year as we go through the CMAS scores, we're going to take a look for any areas where all of the growth and achievement in a particular category and grade section has met or exceeded, has gotten a grade of met or exceeded from the state. This year we have one, so I would like to call out and ask Gwen Peckron to stand up for a moment. Merit Academy in their middle school achieved meets or exceeds in academic achievement for CMAS, English Language Arts, and math, both for growth and for achievement. And we will always recognize growth, but we will celebrate achievement. And we will always celebrate when we get meets or exceeds across the board. Congratulations.
Laura, I did have a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
With just on the last one
Yes.
that you had here.
On the science?
Yeah, would you be able, or are you prepared to explain how we measure all of our grades to meet or exceed the state? And a lot of people have a question about what does that state number mean? And would you be able to explain that to the board and to just so everybody's on the same page? What are we comparing it to?
So if you're talking about the percentage of met or exceeded the state standards,
yes,
that percentage is the average of all 8th graders or all 11th graders across the entire state. If you're talking about scaled score, then you're talking about the number of students that exceeded the scale score of 750, which is the baseline for met or exceeded the state standards.
Okay. So when we see here on the science for 11th grade students at the high school that are nearly double what the average did, I mean, that is significant. That's huge.
Yes, it is.
And I want to thank our high school teachers,
yes,
our high school students. Great job. Amazing job.
One thing I'd like to point out, though, is these scores are great, and those are 11th graders, but remember, they started as preschoolers and kindergarten. They're all Woodland Park School students. They're all our district students, whether they're in 3rd grade. 3rd graders belong to the high school as much as the high school students belong to the elementary schools. So taking a look at it as these are our students, these are our scores. The students did this. The teachers helped them to get there. But the teachers must have also instilled a sense of pride in their work ethic to be able to work this hard on these assessments. Because oftentimes what you see once they hit middle school, high school, it doesn't matter as much to them, to the students. So being able to say that they worked that hard and were dedicated and persistent enough to score that high is amazing. So they should very much be commended, and not just the high school, but also all the teachers that fed into that as well.
That's great.
Of course, your parents, right? Because it does take a village. So,
I do have one more question.
yes, sir.
You had said, and I was surprised to hear this before, but it is optional. Students do not have to participate in this. Is that correct?
The parents always have an option to opt out of CMAS testing. One of the things that the state has changed, as we'll see in the SPS, is that in the participation rating that a school or a district receives from the state, they used to have the total number of students that took the assessment. They had the total number of students that were eligible for the assessment, and they would subtract the students that were opted out or a parent refusal. They count that, but now they also count total number of students that tested versus total number of students available for testing. So if you have too many students that opt out of testing, that now harms or can harm, as we will see, the rating of the school.
I recall Ms. Cassens was very diligent at getting as many students to please our parents to take this test because it was so important to the ranking of our school district.
Well, and it's not just important to the ranking of the school districts. It's important, while it's only a snapshot, it's important for us to be able to see where our students are so that we can track trends over time to be able to see if there needs to be adjustment to academics in the classroom. Maybe we need a change of programming. Maybe we have a teacher that's stronger in one area than another, so we can rely on each other and learn from each other's best practices to do what's best for our students.
Right. And you know, one thing that I was very impressed to see in the district is how this is not just a once a year type thing. This is continually going on where teachers are getting together and they're comparing that Sue is doing this in this class and how can we help John do this over there. And I was very impressed to see that our district manages it not just by one test a year, but on a continual basis. I like that a lot.
While I'm only presenting on the CMAS scores, we have DIBELS, which is a reading assessment, a screening, benchmark screening that we do 3 times a year. We also progress monitor our students on that throughout the school year based upon what their scores were at the beginning of the year. We also have iReady for both math and for ELA that we're constantly assessing students, because if you don't look at the data, you don't know where the students are and you don't know what adjustments need to be made in the classroom.
If I may say,
sure.
Before we leave this topic, I probably would have mentioned it a little later, but we kind of entered the topic, so I don't want to leave it alone. It is in Colorado statutory right for a parent to opt their students out of CMAS, i.e. state assessments. While it is unfortunate that schools are occasionally penalized for low participation rates, it is not appropriate for the state to try and penalize parents for exercising their statutory rights. We recognize the rights of parents to oversee the education of their students, and we respect the right of parents to opt out of assessments if they choose. We encourage them to participate because it is to our benefit. But they are the owners of their children's education, and we respect their rights.
Very good.
Ms. Moore,
Yes, sir.
I believe I heard you mention when you're going through the charts about a relatively new reading program and a relatively new math program.
Yes, sir. So in 2021-22 school year, the district adopted Into Reading as the new reading program. And then last year was the first year for us to utilize the Eureka Squared math program.
Can you explain a little bit about how much time and work we want to give a new program before we can have a good sense, you feel like, in terms of knowing whether or not that program has been a good change?
Well, typically they would say 3 to 4 years would be about when teachers are getting They get trained on the program usually when it first gets implemented, and then throughout the years you'll have refreshers. And when you bring on new staff, they obviously have to be trained as well. But for a staff to be truly comfortable and know all the ins and outs and kind of know it almost like the back of their hand, it takes 2 to 3 years before you would see some solid growth from the program. But saying that, if you have a program that isn't being effective or effective enough to turn things around, our students can't afford to wait 3 to 4 years. So sometimes you need to act more quickly. But that's not a knee-jerk reaction. That's after doing some digging to find out, is it a programmatic problem? Is it an implementation problem? Or what else is happening? So it takes a lot of digging. It's not something that can happen overnight.
Okay, thank you.
Are we ready? Okay, let's look at some SPFs. These are just snapshots. I did not include the whole entire SPF on here. Lindsay? Thank you. So this is the SPF, or the DPF, I'm sorry, the District Performance Framework. And you can see that Woodland Park School District is listed as accredited. We earned 66.8% out of the 100 points. So we are listed as accredited. We're in a performance plan. You can see down at the indicator rating totals, the district overall earned an accredited rating and is rated as meets for academic achievement and academic growth and post-secondary and workforce readiness. Yay. That is district-wide, so you're talking all of the elementary schools, the middle school, the high school is all included in that. So here you can see the summary. You can see it's broken down by the different levels, elementary, middle school, high school. You can see that at the elementary level, the academic achievement we're approaching, but we're still accredited. But look at the middle school. Look at the middle school achievement and growth. They met both for academic growth and achievement and have been, for the district, have awarded us distinction in that area. For our high school, we have academic achievement that meets, and our post-secondary and workforce readiness also meets. And with our academic growth, we're approaching. So we did earn accredited for that rating as well. So great job for all 3 sections to be able to earn the district that sort of rating.
If I may, I want to add one additional point there.
Yes, sir.
It can be a little hard to notice this. I just want to make sure everyone catches this. When you have high achievement, high growth becomes more difficult.
Yes.
Students are at grade level, then closing a year over a year when it really means acceleration, it means going above and beyond. So I just want to be clear that we recognize that as the high school has shown some very high achievement in a couple of areas, that made growth difficult. So let's all recognize that they are doing a great job, particularly in science. But it gets hard to show high growth when you have high achievement.
Go ahead. We have, this is for the district still, this is a breakdown of the academic growth. You can see our CMAS English scores. We met the expectations for all students, but you can see there's some areas that might need some focus. Our students that qualify for free or reduced price lunches, our minority students, and then at the bottom, our students with disabilities. We're approaching, but we're not quite there yet. With CMAS Math, you can see that we exceed both, with all of our students, our free and reduced price lunches, our minority students, those all exceeded. And for our students with disability, we had hit that meets mark. And then down at the bottom, you can see the total score comes out as meets. We look at Columbine Elementary, and I did these kind of alphabetical order for the elementaries. So We'll look at Columbine. Columbine is on a performance plan for this year, and you can see that they are approaching for academic achievement, but they meet for their academic growth. We have to have that growth before we can have the achievement, so I have no doubt that we'll get there this year. For Gateway, Gateway is also on a performance plan. They are approaching in academic achievement and meeting for growth. Summit Elementary earned both meets in academic achievement and growth. So that should be celebrated. So. Merit, this is the one I was alluding to earlier. Merit earned a tremendous score on their SPF with both meeting in achievement and growth. Their plan type unfortunately shows an improvement plan due to decreased participation. There were a few students that were shy of, there were a couple students shy of meeting that participation rating. We had some students that had disenrolled but had not enrolled into another school, so they still show on Merit's enrollment list, so they still count as part of that participation, but we don't have scores for them.
If I may, before you
Yes,
leave
sir.
this, I just want to point out that just as we celebrated a moment ago, meets in growth and achievement, we'll disregard for a moment decrease due to participation and recognize that they also met in growth and achievement.
I actually have a couple more slides for Merit so you can see that. Just so you know, we are looking at avenues to contest this rating because there are avenues when we disagree with the rating for participation. And so we're looking into some avenues. So it is possible that this rating may be changed to a performance level plan. Okay. The next page does show the breakdown of the does not meet of the participation. And when you have a very small number of students that are actually testing, 1 or 2 students can really throw off that percentage of participation. You can see, so 95% is the threshold. You can see how close they were. But if you turn to the next slide, thank you, Lindsay, you can see here is where we get to really celebrate the academic growth and achievement for the elementary and the middle school for Merit Academy. They exceeded in their academic growth. Woodland Park Middle School. The middle school earned the most points out of the district schools for their SPF. They met expectations for both growth and achievement. And here you can see the breakdown, their growth and achievement and the percentage points that they earned. And here we get to celebrate their CMAPs, where they exceeded. This is on academic growth. Their CMAP scores, all of their students, they hit exceeds. Their free and reduced students exceeded with growth, and so did their minority students. And then their students with disabilities met the expectations. And for our high school, they also are on a performance plan. They meet expectations for achievement and post-secondary and workforce readiness, and they are approaching in their academic growth. But once again, when you're high performing, that growth is hard to achieve. So, great job for the high school. You can see where the area in their academic growth that they're approaching. Okay, so we look at these scores. This was from last year. So we're talking about tests that were given to a group of students in April. So we're using these scores to set a new baseline. And as a district, there's obviously some areas for some growth. everybody has growth, right? You set goals, students set goals, we set goals as adults. You have to have something to strive for. So our goal is to dive deeper into this data and then dive into the beginning of the year data and revisit some of our processes, maybe some of our programming, to ensure that our students are receiving the best possible education that Woodland Park School District can offer. We have a strong group of educators in our classroom, and we have strong leaders leading our schools. And we need to ensure that our educators have the tools, the training, and the support necessary to be successful in helping our students grow and achieve to their full potential.
Thank you.
Any questions? I ran off too early last time, so my husband told me I stayed up here.
Thank you, brother.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Moore. On to discussion information B, and Mr. Witt, will you please bring us up to date on the DAC and the SAC process?
As has been the tradition with this board, we expect that you will review and approve the DAC and SAC composition at your next board meeting. So we have already put out the requests for applications for DAC and SAC. I expect that the principals are working pretty aggressively in their schools to encourage people to participate. And we'll pull those together. We'll put forward some recommendations. And in your next board meeting, the October board meeting, you'll have an opportunity to review the composition, make any suggestions for adjustments among the applicants, and finalize the DAC and SAC composition for this year.
Thank you. One thing, Mr. Witt, maybe you could mention, there's a lot of people who now watch on YouTube and that don't know what DAC and SAC are. Could you just please tell what they are and what their members are made up of?
Absolutely. I can't tell you exactly the composition without pulling up the statute, but I can tell you that the School Accountability Committee is the SAC. The District Accountability Committee is what we call the DAC. The SACs provide a representative to the DAC, the District Accountability Committee, and the composition is required to include parent, business, individual, and community. There are some requirements to make certain that the composition is somewhat representative of the stakeholders in education.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Nice. Maybe I just didn't hear it. You talked about the principals recruiting and trying to make sure we've got good members. Do we have like an application on the website or anything that people can apply to as well?
Thank you for that prompt. The application is posted on the website. So school parents, school leaders, involved school individuals have an opportunity to go and fill out the application online. You don't have to go to the school to fill it out. You can do that online for both the DAC and the SAC.
And can I say one other thing? Because I know, David, you and I have sat on the District Accountability Committee the last year, and I thought they did a lot of great work. Especially they really got charged up, and I thought there was a lot of passion about crossing guard duties and improving safety. And I've seen some significant changes, and we do owe thanks to our city council because a lot of those things come from them in terms of putting out traffic signs to alert our drivers, especially in the morning heading down Kelly's where Columbine, Merritt, and Middle School are located, about the change in speed limit and things like that. So they've done some great work. So I strongly encourage interested community members to apply to be a part of the District Accountability Committee as well as the various school accountability committees. And I have talked to some folks who are interested. And one thing I've gotten a question on, so I'll just go ahead and say this. It's not going to take too much of your time. They generally meet about once a month between October to April. I think meetings like the District Accountability Committee is about 15 people roughly. And so it can take a little bit of time because there's so many people, but I'd say generally 2 hours or so a meeting, but it's well worth your time. The District Accountability Committee does have very important roles. Chiefly with any sort of charter school application, they must be consulted and weigh in on it. And in any sort of hiring of a permanent superintendent, they must be consulted and weigh in on it. They got the chance to do that with your own hiring, Mr. Witt. And as the community is well aware, we're going to go through that again. Mr. Witt's contract, and I like you a lot, but your current contract just runs through this current school year. And so we're going to have an election in November, give a chance for the community to weigh in before the district engages on a multi-year contract search, what can potentially be a big and expensive contract. And the DAC is going to be a part of that. So I encourage everybody who cares about the district and the community to apply and make sure that your voices are heard, because it can be very important work. It's well worth your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure. Mr. Salt, is there any additional news about the middle school? Has the electrician arrived? Do we expect that the problem is resolved?
Yeah, so the election, excuse me, the electrician made it out there, and it was an emergency ballast inside of the light that was in there, so we were able to pull the ballast out, cap the power, everything's good to go, so we're ready to carry on business as usual tomorrow, and then we'll have some additional work to be done shortly to replace the light fixture.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, is there anyone, any of the directors have any comment? Is Mrs. Kimbrell still on the phone with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Well, let's start out with you. Do you have anything for your report for this month?
I'm losing my voice here. I want to apologize for not being there in person. I had a family emergency and a death, so I'm actually attending a funeral tomorrow. But on Friday, September 1st, Mick and I were able to attend the Gateway Elementary celebration for their achievement from the 2022 Governor's Distinguished Improvement Award. I do know this award was given to schools that demonstrated exceptional student growth over 3 years. It is an honor to be recognized for this award, and it showcases the dedication of the Gateway students and the educators, both past and present. I know I can speak for everyone when I say that we, the board of directors, are extremely proud of the students and staff for their hard work. Mick and I, we really just enjoyed attending this event. Like, students were able to have an hour just to play and have treats and celebrate with their peers and really recognize their achievements and awards. So, thank you.
I'd like to add to that, if I may. That was a pleasure. Those kids knew that was coming up all week, so they were excited. And something that we observed that I hadn't seen before was with the new Capturing Kids' Hearts program, there was an implementation where if the kids were getting excited, which they were, I mean, it was the end of the week and they were going to get out to the playground, they got a little excited. So I noticed teachers holding up this sign. And then as one did it, then all of the teachers did it, and then the kids did it. And it quieted right down. I thought, what does this mean? Then it happened a couple of times, and that system worked very well. And it's new to these kids, and they've picked up on it. I was very encouraged to see that. I think that's a good tool. And the kids had a ball.
If I can add after what Mick said, Gateway administration also shared that the parents are acknowledging how wonderful the environment at Gateway this year is, and I'm wondering if Capturing Kids' Hearts is really a part of that action. And we're hearing a lot of positive feedback from educators and administration and parents. Thank you.
One person in particular commented that there was a noticeable calm at the school that was much appreciated.
And which school, you're talking about Gateway?
Gateway.
All right,
For the award on the 1st.
well, thanks. Did you were at the 9/11?
Yeah, I'd like to speak about it when time allows. Obviously, there were more than one celebrations, or I shouldn't say celebration, but acknowledgements on Monday. I came to the Flags for Schools presentation, and that was an opportunity to provide a lesson in patriotism for our students. All of the high school students were out in the parking lot. The American Legion did a presentation. It was very patriotic. I thought it was very helpful for the kids. They presented the high school with a brand new flag. We did the Pledge of Allegiance. And the person that spoke for the American Legion did a very good job of explaining what it took for this country to become what it is. And I think the students enjoyed a nice lesson in patriotism. It was short, but it was very good. So hats off to all that participated in that. And it was a pleasure to be there.
Thank you, Nick.
Yes.
Sue, anything? Okay. Adjournment Wentworth. Thank you.
I just wanted to echo what Director Bates was saying. It's always a great honor whenever we can have our veterans and our members of our armed forces participate with our youth and our schools. I think taking an oath to defend our country is one of the greatest things that many of us could hopefully achieve. As a former member of our armed forces, I was an officer in the United States Air Force. I always look forward to that sort of partnership and encouragement. I think, I personally think the armed forces have a great deal to offer many of our young graduates. And I'll note, we have discussed before about trying to get a junior ROTC program present in the school district, and there's unfortunately some financial challenges with that. But I look forward to continuing to encourage doing such a program if we can. And I'd also note that Merritt Academy has the Civil Air Patrol. And I don't believe that you need to necessarily be a student to be able to participate in it. You could be a student at another school. I do know Merritt Academy has some of that. I think that's a wonderful program that allows students the ability to even get a pilot's license. And also it is like the civilian component to our Air Force. And a lot of times if you're visiting Merritt, you will see students wearing the old Airman's Battle uniform, which is what I wore when I deployed to Iraq, but they've already moved on to something else. They changed these uniforms the way I guess sports teams now change colors on things. So, but what I would add to that is that it would be great if we could encourage other students to participate in the Civil Air Patrol program if they so choose, if it's good for them, and whether that needs to be just at Merritt or whether that could be expanded to other schools in the district. It seems to have been a great success there, and it's something I think would benefit many of our students if they could participate. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Well, I want to thank everyone for coming this evening. I have to say that there is a lot of work going on in our schools. I am so encouraged to see the improvements that were reported this evening. So I want to thank you all for coming, and just go in peace is what I would say. So do I have a motion? Am I missing something? So we are ready to adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Bates.
Aye.
Illingworth.
Aye.
Kimbrell.
Aye.
Patterson. Aye. Rusterholz.
Aye. Thank you again for coming.
I'm gonna hang up now, but,
Good evening.
Yes, sir.
travels back. All right.